Hello and welcome back to the final whistle, brought to you by the Rugby Connection podcast. Well, the Rugby World Cup is fast approaching, and what better way to celebrate that with our next guest who has won 2 World Cups. He is one of very few that's won the title more than once, and he's even in a more illustrious group that's won it back to back. Crusaders, Highlanders, POW, Andy went over in Japan as well. It's Colin Slade, ladies and gentlemen. Colin, thank you so much for getting on the show. How are you getting on?
G'day, mate. How are you? Thanks for having me. Good to be here. It's a nice and early morning for us here in New Zealand. But thanks for having me on.
No, you're very welcome. And yeah, just very excited about this chat that we're going to have.
It'll be good. Looking forward to it.
So first question, we ask all our guests this. What actually got you into rugby in the first place?
Well, I think living in New Zealand, rugby's part of our culture, part of our DNA. And like any New Zealander, we had a little bit of, we were lucky to have a bit of space growing up, a bit of a front yard. So went out there every day the sun could let us, the weather could let us rather, and went out there and played and had fun and tried to be an All Black. So it's sort of more following the crowd, following the masses with rugby here in New Zealand. Everyone plays it at lunchtimes in schools, and you can't help but get addicted to it. You sort of just have fun for a while, and then it starts to get a bit serious at some point in time. But early on, it's all about having fun.
That's fair. I suppose you always have to have fun at some point, though.
Yeah, well, obviously you're not getting paid in those early days, so it's purely for enjoyment. So yeah, that's the main motivating factor. Basically playing with your mates, really.
Now, did you always play just rugby, or did you play any other sports growing up?
No, I was one of those guys that tried to play everything at the same time, much to my mother's frustration that she had to drive me everywhere. But cricket was also my biggest sport growing up. Probably more passionate about that throughout my younger years. But and I'd like to think I could have had a career there too. But who's to know? It's a pretty tough career path, I guess, with cricket. But so is rugby. But yeah, rugby worked out well, so I'm glad I stuck with it, I guess.
It definitely worked out well. I mean, back-to-back World Cup. Does that ever? No, you're all good. Does that ever sink in that you've won, not one, but 2 World Cups, and then doing it back-to-back as well?
Yeah, I mean, I know it. I'm not forgetful yet, but it does feel like a long time ago. It does feel like another life that I lived a little bit. I've done my New Zealand career, and as you previously touched on, I went overseas, and so it was some time ago where I identified. It's a trendy way of saying things, but I identified as an All Black, and that was obviously part of my All Black career is winning a couple of World Cups. So it's not something that. I think about too much these days. I've sort of moved on from footy, and I'm sure we'll get to it. But the rugby stuff was, does feel like a different life for me at this stage already.
Fair enough. Now, just because I mentioned it in the introduction, you've obviously played in New Zealand with Crusaders and Highlanders. You then went to France with, how do you pronounce it? Is it POW? POW. This was always
we just say, but it's POW. POW's how you pronounce it.
Right. So you played in POW, and then you also went over to Japan. What was the biggest difference you found playing in those 3 countries?
Yeah, I mean, they are all very different for different reasons. But ultimately, New Zealand is very, very tough for obvious reasons. But you've got this skill factor that is probably unrivaled. Other countries, France in particular, but I imagine the same in the UK. Is you get big guys there. You get some really big guys there, but New Zealand has this unique balance, I guess, to have big guys, but they've got the skill. Some of the forwards particularly have the skill of the backs, and that makes it really hard. You've always got a lot of threats in the opposition, not just guys trying to run over you. That they're trying to run around you and through you and get the offloads away. And so you had that. Yeah, they had the athleticism, I guess, down under. Whereas France is, like I mentioned, big guys, but more direct. A few more cheap shots and stuff like that, which makes it good fun. Not really, and Japan is obviously a step down, but Equally, it is challenging. You're playing with guys around you who don't have the capability of guys that you play with in New Zealand and France, and that can be in terms of size. They're not as powerful and big, and but also not as skilled. So you sort of have to. It's challenging because you have to work with a different set of skills around you, and you have to adapt as a player. But physically, it's not comparable to any of those previous competitions. But it's a nice place to be for an aging athlete, I guess.
There we go. That was actually my next question, because you're seeing it more often now. A lot of All Blacks or Springboks are going over to Japan. What is the big appeal to Japan?
Well, excuse me. It's easier rugby, quite simply. And you play less games. So in Japan, I think the seasons are probably anywhere, and they vary every year because they can't seem to find one competition structure to stick to. But you're only playing 12 to 15 games, and easier rugby, much easier rugby. So you've gone from a schedule of playing 25 to 30 games, sometimes more, if your team makes playoffs, per year, to basically half that. And in some cases, the pay is certainly for New Zealand guys, you get better pay. So you get better pay half the games, and your body doesn't get as wrecked. It's a pretty easy decision, I guess. But a few years ago, the big trend was to go more to the northern hemisphere, and I was in that group, that exodus that happened around 2015, where we had all these All Blacks going up to France in particular, but we certainly had a number going to UK. But that's obviously changed in recent times, particularly after the financial issues that the UK's had. So there's not the money that is appealing, but Japan for the most part, they still pay very well, and it's just easier footy.
Fair enough. But I admire the honesty, because a lot of players you'd get the great vision, blah blah blah. No, sweet money, easier.
Yeah, well, I expect that it's different for different people at certain times of their career, but obviously New Zealanders, that's their goal, is to make the All Blacks, and if that doesn't happen, it's I'm going to make some money. But also, and I'll say equally this, because this was my decision I had to go through too, is ultimately, you're only young once, and the footy career is a very short period, and the ability to go overseas, and yes, to make money, but to work and travel and see the world is a massive appeal for New Zealand. We're not like the UK and Europe based players who can jump on a plane and jump on a Ryanair and whip over to Brussels or Germany or wherever. New Zealand's quite an isolated place, and the only place you really go is Australia, which is 3 or 4 hours away, and the Fijian, the Pacific Islands rather, which is a similar distance. But apart from that, you're sort of talking 10 hours plus travel. So the concept of being somewhere in Europe where you can travel is very, very appealing too. But like I said before, the money has to stack up, and it also has to stack up timing wise with you hanging up your boots for the All Blacks or the opportunity to play.
It's fair, all a valid reason, all of that. Is there any club or any competition you would have liked to play in but never got the opportunity?
Not really. Like, honestly, and I'll speak honestly, UK never appealed for me. I'm a bit of a, I sort of take my mood and my temperament from the weather. In the UK, it can be a bit of a drag for me. And obviously, I mean, the footy's tough. So if I wanted to play tough footy, and hard footy, I was going to play in New Zealand, and I wanted to go overseas. And don't get me wrong, France was very tough, but you had that beautiful weather that was a lot more appealing for me. So to answer your question, no. What I would have liked to have done is played a little bit more of the Heineken Cup stuff. So my team, we struggled. We were sort of always in the relegation battle, bottom half of the table. So we never really got that opportunity, and that was one reason why I did want to go overseas into Europe, was to do that, but never did. So that was a bit of a disappointment, but it is what it is.
No, that's fair. I mean, you still had a fantastic career. You've played with some of the best scrum halves. So, who is your best halfback partner, past or present? You don't even have to have ever played with them. You get one from each.
Wow. You're right. I did get to play with a lot of special players. I mean, obviously Aaron Smith is is the best halfback, and I know some Northern Hemisphere people would probably debate, but he's probably the best halfback ever. Well, I mean, this French guy Dupont, he's obviously pretty classy. I actually take that back. I would have loved to have played with him. Geez, he's a I don't think I've ever seen a talent like that. So, I mean, outside of a John Olomu, but he's obviously not a halfback. Probably him. I would have loved to have played with him. I played against him obviously in France a little bit, but he was a bit younger. But now he's head and shoulders above all players at the moment in the world. But I mean, I was lucky to play with Aaron. I played with a number of other really good halfbacks. Pity Whoop, he was good. He wasn't the fastest halfback in the world, but he had control of the situation. So he was awesome for a young 10. And that is important too, I suppose. Different halfbacks suit different 10s, but at that stage I was a young guy and he was awesome. So very, very fortunate.
There we go. We could stretch it out because you mentioned Jonah. You can mention your whole back line, the dream, if you want.
Yeah, easy. All right, we'll go Dupont at 9. I played with DC a lot. I'm going to exclude myself because I would have loved to put myself in there, but my dream back line, I'd put Wilkinson in there. I think that guy's he was my first sort of. I was an Andrew Murden's fan originally, and still are. But still am. But 12, I'd probably go for who would I go as a 12? Probably Mata. Mata would be, pretty devastating. On the midfield, we had Raja. Wingers, probably Tuisova, Nadolo. Jonah, obviously I'd go Jonah if I had any sort of and Christian Cullen at fullback. I thought they were pretty class. So it's a pretty good backline. Yeah.
You can't stop any of that. There's nothing you can do as a defender to stop any of that happening. And you can sort of see
the 10 I was. I loved my big ball carrying Pacific Islanders around me. Geez, they're rugby's a brute force game, right? And those guys are pretty handy as a 10 to just be able to pass to those two. So if I had to play with any of those guys, it'd be a much easier day at the office.
I was going to say it protects you a little bit as well, just that little cushion. Yeah. I completely agree with you. And have Mata and Semi as a centre partnership, even just once would be.
Yeah, look, I know. Typically these days you try and get a second ball player out there, but when you've got that sort of brute force, just put them through. They'll go all right.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Crash ball 12.
It's all hypothetical anyway. It's never going to happen. But yeah, how good?
Yeah. My co-host Cam has asked, what does it mean to you to be an All Black?
Well, it's obviously, the first thing is very, very proud. You're a young fella and you set that dream to be an All Black. So, and then you chase it and you don't really know the path to get there, particularly when you're young and you just sort of play footy. And like I said, you did it because you loved it. And one day when I grow up, I want to be an All Black. And, and then it happens pretty quickly. You're kind of at school and all of a sudden, academy managers and agents and contracts start getting thrown around, and you're obviously still a young guy trying to deal with whatever. And I was still at university and starting to get introduced to professional footy. And then, I guess it came when it was probably more started to play with some of these All Blacks. That was quite a surreal experience that I'd gone from 2 or 3 years earlier being at school and watching these guys to playing with the likes of McCaws and Brad Thorns and Kevin Mialamu. That took a lot to get your head around. But I suppose, to answer your question, to be an All Black is a sense, you're very, very proud and honoured to do it. But also at the same token, you achieved that goal that you set really early that you somehow got there, and not everyone gets to do it. It's a pretty prestigious club. So, grateful.
Fantastic. You could see how passionate and how much it meant to you just from when you were there, which...
Yeah, it's a hard one to put into words, really, but ultimately you can sum it down to that. And if you got a sense of it, it's a very proud moment, especially for a Kiwi. It's important for us that All Black jersey.
Absolutely. I I was going to ask who's going to win Super Rugby, but you played for Crusaders and they're in the final, so I feel like,
Although I mean the Chiefs are going to be pretty tough up there, so. But it won't be 50 points. Put it that way. If we do win.
Fair enough. Going into this World Cup, who's your top 4? We'll say to go all the way.
I haven't, and I'll say this because this is the second or third time I've said this. I haven't actually looked at the schedule, and I should do that before I make these decisions. But the top 4 teams at the moment are clearly, in my view, going to include the All Blacks. But outside of that, Ireland, France are my number 1, and then obviously that other place has to be a South Africa or an Australia, obviously England, but I don't see them being there. But again, it kind of depends on the draw. But it's going to be the obvious candidates. But if I think who's going to win it is probably the more pertinent question. And it's I think New Zealand and France are. New Zealand's going to be a chance, but I'd probably say France are the clear favourites at the moment, particularly being at home. It's you'd have to make a pretty strong case to talk me out of that. They're a tough team, and even more tough, or even tougher in France. They grow an extra leg. So if they decide and if they can somehow motivate themselves to, and I'm sure they want to, but really motivate themselves, they're going to be very hard to beat.
It's fair. I think I'm kind of the same as you. Every time I've been asked, my answer changes. So I've said France, I've said New Zealand, I've said Ireland, but then I don't say like Ireland or South Africa because they're in Scotland's group. So in my head, one of them needs to get out so we can continue.
Yeah, I mean, they're thinking with your heart and your head, and even when I say New Zealand, I'm that's thinking with my heart. I can't, and I haven't. One thing I haven't done, I haven't changed. It's France. All for me is that the team I'll win. Who's going to make up the top 4? That always can change. But I just see all roads leading to France being the biggest threat at this stage.
Fair enough. It's going to be a hell of a tournament. I genuinely cannot wait. So.
Yeah, I'm heading up. To go and watch a few games for about 3 weeks. So I'm just going to float around the south of France, where obviously I spent a bit of time. So it'll be good to go back up there and enjoy that lovely French lifestyle again.
Take me with you.
Well, we can see it's obviously not as far for you to travel. So there you go.
There you go. See, don't ask, don't get. That's how I do it. Brett Barnes has asked, who is your toughest opponent? Now it could be toughest player opponent or toughest team, or both, because you're our guest. So
well, it's pretty similar, really. So we played a lot against South Africa, obviously, and they're a pretty tough outfit to come up against. Australia's our biggest foe, but South Africa was always a hell of a match, and they've got some big boys. So I'll say South Africa. Then from that, I'll pick a South African and probably Skultberger or something like that was always someone I didn't like to play against. He was, I don't know, it felt like wherever you tried to tackle him, you were going to hit an elbow or a knee or something. It was just, he was all over the show and a big guy. So he was one of those guys you're always mindful of where he was on the field. But, a guy like Josh Chosova was the same for me. I thought that guy, and still is, an absolute freak of an athlete that you didn't want to be stuck one-on-one with. In a small channel because he could go around you, but invariably he tries to go through you as a small guy. So those guys, and I don't know what it is about a small white guy that we look like such an easy target, but they find us and absolutely go us. So I had my fair share of that. Marta was a bit like that when I was younger. He used to just sort of see me and run at me, and that was always good fun. But yeah, I think I've answered that. Yeah,
you've had some battles anyway from the sound of it for sure.
Yeah. Tens do get targeted a wee bit, so part and parcel with it. You just sort of close your eyes and hope for the best. I think sometimes, yeah.
I was just going to ask.
Sometimes it worked out.
I was going to say, how do you try and not get targeted in a way? Just because obviously, like you said, tens do get targeted, but how do you try and avoid that?
End of the day, you try and get targeted, you feel like a weak link. So you just got to learn to man up and not, you can't hide yourself. You know, obviously little tactics, you spend most of your time in the backfield. You know, they can't run at you if you're hiding back there. But, you know, as a 10, you're in that front line a lot. You know, particularly early on at set piece. It's just no two ways about it. And it wasn't probably till later in my career and getting to France that I probably understood that you actually need to learn to love it, and even that contact side. So, yeah, it got to a stage where you just had to roll your sleeves up, and then after a time, you know, mentally it wasn't an issue, and physically it probably wasn't, because you just got used to it.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. I've never really thought of it like that, because it just looks horrible. Like when you're not dealing with it, just like why are you getting picked on, essentially? But
yeah, but I mean, if you're in opposition, would you rather run it someone like myself, or whoever's next to me, a Mata or whoever? You know, it's a bigger guy, so it makes sense, and it's all about winning small battles on the field, and that's certainly how we would play, you know, teams as well. It's about, you know, what's going to give us the best chance of getting past the advantage line, the gain line, or making a break. It's obviously to attack a smaller guy. Makes sense, right?
See, I'm stupid. I would happily, well, not happily. I would run against Mata. I wouldn't like it, but let's go for it.
Righto. It's easier to talk from there, isn't it?
It is. We joke about this all. I think we started doing it on the regular episodes. Me and Cam would like, who would you run it straight against? And you pick one player. Now, Cam would always pick, like, he said he could run it straight against Jonah. I'm like, no, you can't. No one can. But yeah, like I was like, you could pick a scrum half, but then they might have excellent technique and still put you on your arse, and then you look really silly. So there's no good at it.
Well, there is. It comes down to physics to a certain degree, doesn't it? You know, a bigger guy is going to absolutely bury you. And even if a smaller guy has good technique, might get you down more effectively, but probably won't hurt as much at the end of the day if you're running it straight. It'd be a bit of a challenge to go against a Jerry Collins or someone like that. Holy.
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
No. Now I'm thinking about it more, and there was some beasts. No.
Oh, a lot of beasts. Yeah. Nah, keep it to halfbacks.
I'll stick to the interviewing and just talk about it and reminisce. And I'll stick to that part of it. It's all good.
Yeah. I'll give you that advice. Good advice.
We're going to go into something different now. We're going to get to know you as a person.
Cool.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Fairly easy choice, yeah.
Are we just no justification? I just have to say it.
That's fair. You don't have to. You can justify it if you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, no, they're just awesome.
Fair enough.
Love dogs. Yeah.
Any specific dog or just all dogs?
Oh, I had a Labrador Border Collie, and I had one for about 11 years. He died about 6 months ago, unfortunately, and I've just missed him. But he was my OG, the stable. You know, a dog is very different than your wife. You can lock one in the car for a couple of hours, and only one of them's happy to see you when they get out. You know, and dogs are just awesome no matter what, and the most stable thing. So I just think they're awesome. My dog was never angry at me no matter what either. So it's awesome.
That's a fair point. What is your favourite film?
I really like that new Top Gun, but the film I can watch over and over again was the Gladiator. I just thought that was awesome, and I'll probably watch that 20 plus times. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, that new Top Gun's pretty class.
I've still not seen the new one. I've seen the original, but I've not seen Top Gun Maverick yet.
Yeah,
it's on the list.
Yeah, no, it was a good watch. You know, you kind of think that whole remake of an old classic can be a bit cringeworthy, but it wasn't. It absolutely nailed it.
There we go.
Good recommendation for you. Yeah.
Happy days. If there was a film about your career, who would you want to play Colin Slade?
Oh dear. Brad Pitt, of course.
There we go. I
don't know. Jeez, haven't had that question before. Yeah. Oh, Russell Crowe did a good job in Gladiator. There we go. My story would be about a few, and I've had quite a few injuries in my career, so it's about getting up and doing all that. And Russell Crowe. We'll go Russell Crowe. The thinner Russell Crowe, not the more recent one.
Gladiator Russell Crowe.
Gladiator, yeah. Prime Russell Crowe.
Is there any TV show you're currently binge watching that you recommend we give a go?
I'd love to have a good answer for you, but no, not really. Haven't really got into anything for a while, but I'm sure there is, but I haven't got anything off the top of my head. Bit disappointing for you, but
or just
I'll circle back. Well, I mean, I've definitely done the Game of Thrones thing, and Peaky Blinders, all those sort of ones. But they're classics, and everyone's seen them. So there's nothing. I'm not reinventing the wheel there. I don't watch a lot of TV, unfortunately. I've got three kids under. Well, the oldest has just turned 5, so I've got 3. Any spare time I get is either playing with them or recovering from playing with them, and just it's a pretty simple world I live in at the moment. Just adhere to their needs.
I'm the exact same. I only have one, but again, he's under 5. He's 3. Keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
His new trick is he can kick basketballs.
Oh,
he's convinced you kick a basketball. I'm like, you're not meant to kick basketballs. But okay,
right.
You do.
maybe he just needs a football.
He has footballs. He's got rugby balls. He's got a small basketball. He's got everything, and he just
prefers
makes it up as he goes along. So just like
he'll figure it out.
Exactly. Favorite song or music genre?
Oh dear. Killer questions very early in the morning for us. I like a bit of country music, I guess. Yeah. That's only come on recently, actually. I've sort of been always like, you go to the gym and you want a bit of beat, so that's probably where I would tend to. But lately I've sort of enjoyed a bit of country music, and trying to think of the country artist. I'll just say Keith Urban, but I couldn't even remember one of his songs, but I kind of just the background sort of vibe that I have going on. So yeah, we'll go with that.
No, country music's coming up quite a lot, and we always get something different, because I think it's amazing how they can sing about anything and it makes sense somehow.
Yeah, there's a story behind it, but I just sort of like the vibe it gives you, I guess. It's quite a laid back, sitting outside and having a few beers, but yeah, that sort of vibe, isn't it?
Happy days. Well, that leads me to my next one. What is your go-to, I say post-match drink, but it's more like you and the boys had a big win, you're out on the town, what's your socials? What are you drinking on the socials?
Water. Powerade. No. Yeah. Well, having lived in France, probably red wine's my preferred beverage these days. A little bit as I get older, you start to get a bit more sophisticated. So, but absolutely loved my time in France and developed a very, very good taste for red wine. So yeah, a good French red wine is hard to beat. It's kind of one of those ones you can have at any occasion. But obviously, again, one of those situations where if everyone's ordering beer, you just have a beer after a game. But
awesome.
yeah,
red wine's a first for the show. So there you go.
There we go. Happy to do that.
Favorite, I say style food, like food cuisine.
Yeah, Japanese, easy. Lived there the last couple of years, so it's I love Japanese, and obviously that there's a lot of different styles, but yeah, any of that sort of that's called yakiniku, where you sort of cook it over a flame in front of yourself. Yeah, absolutely class. Yeah,
I'm guessing you like sushi as well.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's a little bit vanilla when it turns to come to Japanese, but I still have sushi maybe 3 or 4 times a week. But that's the stock standard Japanese option, especially in a Western world. But having lived over there, you get a few different varieties, I guess, of Japanese food, and a good ramen. Something that I try to get to once a week or something like that. Love Japanese.
That's fair enough. Good answer. Favorite pizza topping?
Well, I need meat. I get it. You can have pizza without meat on it, and that's awesome. But I just need some meat on it. So whether it's chicken or a bit of beef or something like that, a good lamb pizza goes good too. But yeah, I need the protein. Even though I don't need it now because I'm not a footy player, and it used to be like, I need the protein. But yeah, I just need a little bit of volume, I guess, to be able to taste it.
That's fair. Now, this is something that I always have to discuss when I have guests on from the Southern Hemisphere. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yeah, it's legit. Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Put anything on a pizza. Anything on a pizza. We're quite a what we do. We just sort of have leftovers and we make our homemade pizzas, and we'll put anything, potato and broccoli, and we'll throw it all on this pizza. That's just what we do. I don't know if it's something else other people do, but just have a leftover pizza. Have a whatever you need, just throw it on. Obviously, put some staples in there, bit of cheese, bit of some sort of sauce. But yeah, you can do anything on a pizza, man.
Do you put pineapple on a hamburger? Like on a beef burger, sorry.
I'm not against it. If it was one going, I'd probably do it. Yeah, why not?
That's the one I've been learning about, and everyone's like, you have to try it. And I'm like, it just sounds wrong in my head.
Yeah. It's like a, I don't even know. It might sound stupid saying it, but there is like a Kiwi burger. We're quite well known for it. Okay. It may or may not have pineapple in it, so I could be telling an absolute yarn. But yeah, beetroot's another one. You put in there a bit of egg, and you kind of have this big, high stacked thing. And
God,
yeah, cooked pineapple. You cook it slightly either side so it gets a little bit golden. But the pineapple, and then chuck it in there. Give it a whirl, mate. If you haven't tried it, do that first.
I feel like there's too many guests that have told me to try it, so I now have to try it just because of the amount of people that's told me to give it a go.
Yeah. Well, what do you got to lose? You don't like it? Move on.
That's very true. Favorite or dream holiday destination?
Do I have to take my kids?
That's up to you.
Well, no, there's no way I'd take my kids on a holiday. Hell no, there's no holiday when you've got 3 kids. Getting to some sort of island. Look, I love Hawaii. I've only been there once, but that was awesome. But if I don't have kids, like we don't get a lot of chill time. So if me and my wife could go anywhere, we just go sit on a beach in Fiji or something. I haven't been to a Bali or even some of those other islands. Maybe we'd explore that, but some sort of Pacific island with no kids, it would be amazing.
What if the kids are coming? Where are you going?
Yeah. Oh dear. Somewhere where they've got a kids club. Fiji's got some really lovely kids clubs, so somewhere we can dump the kids for the day and then to go sit on a beach.
I like that.
But no, I mean we've travelled a bit, and there's obviously it's half the fun is being able to live experiences through your kids' eyes again. So going to Disneyland and stuff, we did that plenty in Japan, but it's a hectic, tired day. You're at the end, you're just absolutely wrecked. So kids are, there's not much holidaying when you got kids. Jesus, you know that, but if you haven't, you'll figure that out real quick.
Well, we've got our first family holiday in October, so
right. Oh, good luck to you. Tell me it's a holiday after you get home. Yeah. Geez, I tell you what, even going to the supermarkets with 3 kids is a pain in the ass. So it's
Mrs. Kid in the shop in the supermarket. I sit in the car. I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Not because of him.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I hate supermarkets.
Right. Yeah.
Just not my thing. I absolutely detest it.
I love my kids, but there's no such thing as peace. So yeah.
See, this is how I know that we're both fathers, because I completely agree with you here. Like, love them to, but my God, just need some quiet.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. But
in the nicest way possible.
Yeah, no, I love my kids, and there's times where I have the energy to play with them. But if I'm having a holiday, I don't want to get more tired.
That's fair enough. What was your worst subject at school?
Maths. I was one of those guys where it kind of like just mentally I figured out that I probably wouldn't need it to a high degree. Certainly with a calculator at my disposal, so it was kind of a little bit of a non-event for me, I must admit. Your
best subject at school, I imagine, was PE or gym or sport, whatever you call it.
Yeah, probably best performing, but it's probably a little bit too much of a cliche for me being a rugby guy and a sports guy. So I actually, for some reason, I applied myself pretty hard at history. I just struck it with my history teacher, and I ended up going to university and completing my bachelor's in history. So
There you go.
Yeah, it's funny that history's obviously got some great learnings and some good stories. But the more you study it, the least you know, and it's a big old endless world of acquiring knowledge that again probably isn't too useful in the real world. But yeah, that was what I tended to focus on at school. I didn't want to be the stigma of a dumb footy player and just focus on PE, eating my lunch and going home. It was, might as well learn some stuff and yeah.
That's fair enough. I always remember my history teacher just randomly, middle of the class, like read my surname, obviously because I'm top of the list because of Anderson, and they went, "Oh, your family immigrated to New Zealand. Some of your family immigrated to New Zealand, like God knows how many years ago." I was like, "Okay." So she was like, "So there's a strong chance you have about probably less than 10% like Maori heritage." I was like, "Oh, cool, fair enough." And I just believed it. I've never like looked into it, but like she said, it would be like they immigrated to Dunedin, obviously because the Highlanders represent like Scottish culture, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. And I never looked into it. She said it so convincingly. I just went, cool.
Yeah, there you go. Well, worth looking into, but yeah, I suppose you won't know until you find out, I guess.
That's it. Who is the most famous contact in your phone?
Oh, they're probably all footy players. To be fair, I don't really have much else. Yeah, name it. Yeah, probably a DC or a Richie or something like that. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've got anyone else outside of that.
Me.
Nah. Yeah. I think you're not on my phone.
Oh. That's
sorry, mate.
That's cruel, but
you're in my emails. There we go. But yeah,
I'll take that. There we go. Famous email. Favorite hobby away from rugby?
Yeah, golf probably. Obviously, playing with my kids as well. That's still awesome, even though I complain about them a little bit. But yeah, kids, then golf.
Kids, then golf. Okay, that's good. I like that. How often do you go golfing, or how often would you like to go golfing? That's probably the better question.
I try to get out there once a week. So yeah, I've been playing a little bit more lately since I've retired. So I actually work nowadays as a financial advisor. So I'm in the investment space, and we often go out there with clients and things like that to play golf. But doesn't mean I'm getting any better. I just play more frequently and actually am getting worse. So I'm going through that sort of learning stage of my golfing career. But yeah, love getting out there and it's about as relaxing as it gets for me these days.
Nice, I like that. Final question for you this morning, for you, Colin. One thing you'd like to be remembered for, just in general, not just as a footy player.
Obviously, everyone wants to be recognised as being a good footy player, I guess. But if you're sort of talking about qualities and that sort of thing, I guess they're a guy who suffered a fair few challenges. Sorry, I'm blocking my mic. Probably I suffered a fair few challenges. I went through a couple of stages of my career where I was kept getting injured. I ended up with about 11 surgeries, and I'd probably challenge anyone that's probably had more injuries. Not all of them were massively severe, but a couple of broken legs, broken ankles, shoulder. I've been through. Got more metal in me than anyone, I reckon. But certainly the number of injuries. But a lot of people probably may have given up or let that affect them. But I made a point in my recovery process. It was like a 2 or 3 year period where it all sort of fell to pieces and I didn't play much. That I was going to play my best footy after that. And yeah, I did, quite simply. I came back and got back into the All Blacks and ended up playing my best footy for the Crusaders, then getting some, on the back of that, some good contracts overseas, and then going overseas and probably playing my best rugby. So yeah, that's probably something that, and people have more often than not already forgotten about it, but that ability to come back from an injury and bit of mental resilience will help me for the rest of my life, I think.
I love that. Well, book is now closed because you've absolutely smashed it.
Good man. Thank you very much.
I cannot thank you enough for agreeing to come on in the first place and just talk to me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. So it's yeah, like I in my new life now, I'm not in the rugby thing and don't have my rugby head on, but it is quite nice to take a moment to reflect on my rugby journey and yeah. So thanks for, I guess, the invitation to come on and talk about that.
You're welcome. Anytime you want, even if you need to get away from the kids, like we said, peace and quiet and all
that. Yeah. But yeah, the time zone's a bit of a challenge. Obviously, it's sort of 12 hours, but yeah, we got there.
There's so many times when I have a guest on from New Zealand and I completely bugger up the times. So I'm sitting on right, 9 a.m. my time, cool, and I get a text from the guest like 2 hours before, like, you all good? And I'm like, oh no, I've miscounted again.
Yeah. No, it's yep, we got there. No, thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. This has been the Final Whistle with Colin Slade. We'll see you next time.